right, in this episode, I have a friend of mine here. I'm a local comedian. He also starred in a short film I produced a while ago and directed, Quite the Hike. He's a Michigan comedian, but plays all over, performs all over the country. Andy Beningo.
Hey, Mike, good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, good to see you too,
yeah,
man.
thanks for having me on the show, man. It's great to see you.
Yeah, I mean, you're a world traveler, so I really appreciate you finding your way to my garage.
Yeah, it's a nice garage. It's pretty good breeze coming in here. So appreciate you having me on. Yeah, it's been fun traveling, and but always love being in Michigan, close to home. So happy to be here.
Yeah. Now, most of your shows, I see you still play out a lot in Michigan. Or you still kind of mostly play in Michigan?
Yeah, I try to find a nice balance. You know what I mean? I got two kids, so I try to balance it. It's usually a couple of weeks at home, couple on the road. I was just in Bay City last night doing the State Theater, and not sure if you've ever been over there before, but beautiful venue.
Bay City,
and just a great crowd. So sometimes you get spoiled playing those big rooms,
Right.
And it's a holiday weekend, but it's a pretty good crowd, and so it's good. But yeah, I started here in Michigan, love it here. So any chance I get a chance to perform, I absolutely love it. So.
I know you do a lot of cruise ships, cruises and stuff. How do you like life in the can on the cruise ships?
Well, it's a love-hate thing, to be completely honest with you, because it's a long contract. You're usually gone for like 2 weeks, so having a family, obviously, it's kind of tough on them. But usually the shows are fun, but it's a little bit different as opposed to working on land, right? Because on land, if it doesn't go well, you just go, all right, thanks, take the check, sneak out the back door, right?
Right.
You bomb on a comedy cruise, you run into the same people for 7 days in a row.
Right.
You know what I mean? They see you in the buffet like, isn't that the chubby guy from the comedy show?
Hey,
so
better look tonight, buddy.
Exactly. So you're living with the audience. So sometimes it can be a little uncomfortable, but hopefully it goes well and you can kind of build a relationship with people. That's the fun thing is I notice that people kind of see you, they like you on the ship, and then they'll come see you, like if you're playing in Michigan or wherever you're at. So it's a good way to, I guess, kind of build an audience and obviously get to kind of see the world. It's like sometimes you're out on these ships and you're doing like Hawaii or Alaska or Europe, something like that, and just never thought in a million years you get to go and see those kind of places. So you get spoiled kind of doing that stuff.
And you see them quick,
Oh, yeah. It's usually like a day, I remember super excited to be in England one time, and I think we had like 6 hours in London. You know what I mean? So it's like you can only see so much, and then it's on to the next port or whatever. But it's good kind of like just to get a little sample of it, I guess.
Right.
So yeah.
And you're kind of getting people in a good state. They're usually typically happy. They're on holiday. So, I mean, you probably seem better than them than you would if they were on a date on a Friday in their own city.
Yeah, yes and no. Usually they are pumped up because it's vacation, and they're like, all right, we got no responsibilities. We can just eat and drink and hang out. But then sometimes you get the opposite, where like if you're in the Caribbean, sometimes people have been drinking all day. Yeah. They've been in the sun all day, so by the time they get to the show, they're like, all right, we're exhausted. So sometimes it can be pulling teeth. But
and it's the second or third show they've seen that day. They load those. I like cruises for I used to talk bad about cruises and say I don't want to be on a in a can with a bunch of other people packed like a sardine, and those rooms look small but. We went on one, me, Marla, and the kids, and I was like, this is actually really nice. And also, I mean, planning-wise, it's like you go on Expedia, you're booking a flight, everything, and then you don't have to think about planning. It's just, here's your menu of opportunities we have. What do you guys want to do? And so it really moves the stress from the parents, and I think 100%. That's a big
and there's so many just entertainment options, like not only is there comedy, but there's like some Broadway play or there's some guy playing a piano or something like that. So, I mean, there's stuff going every night, which is awesome. So I've never heard anybody say on a cruise ship, I'm bored. It's like they're between the food and shows, and there's something for everybody, which is awesome. So, especially if you're bringing your family too, it's nice,
Yeah. And the pizza is usually available 24 hours, so
that's the best part of it.
Yeah. There's a couple nights where I dropped the family off, and I was like, I'm still a little wired. So there's like this one little bar. I would go watch this guy play acoustic, and he has some good covers that he would do, and I would have a drink or two.
Right.
And then I grabbed me a pizza and just walk on the deck with the ocean breeze, and I was like, you've made it, Mike.
This is it.
You're doing great.
It, man. Yes, that is the best. It's something about that air breeze. You get that ocean view. It's definitely a great way to travel, man. I've been doing the ships for about 10 years now already, which is crazy to say, but I've loved it. So it's like I said, I've gotten to see a lot of cool stuff, and then obviously gained some pounds from all the pizza and stuff on those things. But it's worth it.
It's got to be hard to hold a diet there on a cruise.
You always start to, I'm always like, all right, I'm going to eat healthy. There's salads or stuff, and then you're like, oh, there's an ice cream machine. You know, you're like, this is the best.
I think that's 24 hours too.
Yes,
they're really trying to get you.
It is. You can wake up at 3 a.m. and go get ice cream, which is good and bad, I guess.
Yeah, we definitely took advantage of that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I really enjoyed the cruise we did. We're supposed to do one again this February because when we went last time, my son wasn't 13, so he couldn't do the. He was more into what the teenagers are doing in the teen zone, like the Mario Kart competition and things, and he couldn't do that. So we're like, all right, we'll come back in 2 years when
we can actually do stuff, and
you don't have to hang out the littles anymore,
right. Yeah, that's good. That's awesome. And where are your stops at? Do you know where your stops are yet? Or?
We didn't book that, but we did before we did the Caribbean.
Yeah, so Caribbean. Yeah.
We stopped at their little island. What's that? The Royal Caribbean has that little island out there.
Oh, like the little private island or something like that. Yeah,
Coco Cay.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, and that was really cool. Just sitting on a beach, and then you're 20 yards from a buffet all day long that you can go and get food or get a little snack.
That's what I envision heaven being like, a beach, and then you're like, oh, there's food. This is fantastic, Right. So it's a nice spot to be.
Somebody making your bed every day,
There's no responsibilities. It's a great vacation.
Yeah, I've heard about people retiring and doing the mat and taking off for, 2-3 years, spending that and just hopping from cruise ship to cruise ship.
There are people that do that. I mean, I've talked to couples and they go, yeah, we're on Norwegian for, 2 or 3 weeks, and then we're going on Royal for a month, and then we go to Carnival for 2 weeks. And then, so it's like you have these people and that's the one thing I didn't realize, like when I started working out, I'm like, for me, I always thought like a cruise is like a dream trip. Like, everybody goes once and then they're done. They never do that again. But instead you get the opposite. You get people that go, like I said, quite frequently. So, yeah.
Yeah, I actually, it was 2 weeks ago. I see probably one of the best comedy shows I've ever seen. I went to Austin. I mean, you're the best comedy show I've ever seen.
It's over.
But it was in Austin for a bachelor party, and we got tickets for the mothership. The small
fantastic!
Room. And,
yeah.
I mean, they really kill it with the shows there. It was there like 4 people were done, and I was really impressed by the how good they were, and I was crying, and just great comedians. Another one came up, and another one, and it was like 8 or 10 comedians that were all just killers, just one after another. Like usually we go to a show, it's 2-3 comedians, local or whatever, or we see one touring comedian with an opener,
a couple of guys. I think that's kind of the normal comedy club format, is like you have like a host and maybe a guest set, and then like a middle act and then a headliner. But that mothership, I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. From what I gather, it's kind of like the Comedy Store model, where it's like a kind of showcase shows, right? So like you said, there's like 9 people. They're all either working stuff out or they're doing their best TV sets and stuff. But it's cool because that seems to be kind of a growing scene, obviously, with Joe Rogan and those guys all being down there. I was supposed to do some shows in Dallas area, and I had like a night off, and I was thinking about going to check it out. And it's like those shows are sold out like 2 months in advance.
I know, yeah.
Like, it's wild.
We had to jump on it. And actually, we're going to get a show at another one, the Vulcan or something, and then that opened up. Like, they opened up another show or something. So one of the people we were going with just jumped on buying all our tickets and said, all right,
you just grab one here
instead. Yeah. But
and how big is that mothership then? Is it a pretty big room, or is it kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, how many seats would you say it is?
I didn't go in the big room.
Okay.
Where like they shoot the Kill Tony show and stuff.
Yeah, right.
I went to the small room, which had really low ceilings, and I want to say it was probably 150 people that fit in there. Just a really small.
Perfect. It's all you need. Yeah. Good sample size, and that's kind of like, again, the Comedy Store. I remember being a kid going to the store trying to do some sets in there.
Oh yeah.
And I'm amazed because that's like a legendary place. It's like where Robin Williams and Jay Leno and all these guys started. And it's the same thing. There's like 3 shows going on at the same time. So you got like the main room, which, you'd have like Bill Burr and, like maybe Chris Rock or somebody playing there. Then there was a belly room, which was like always like some kind of, like, I don't say like fundraiser, but it was some kind of like, some kind of show going on. Yeah. Sat maybe 50 people, but it's fantastic room. And then you have the original room, which is like where, you know, like Richard Pryor and all those guys started. And the same thing, maybe 100 seats, but you're like, it was amazing to me that I'm like, there's 3 different shows going on at the same time right now. Yeah. And it's just like you said, killer after killer after killer getting up on stage. I mean, so it's like you could, you know, like I said, you can see Bill Burr in one room and then go over and see Bobby Lee in a different room or whoever. And it's like, it's good for comedy, man. It gets people excited, and it's cool to see that Austin has kind of become, like a scene. Like it's, you know, ever since I think Rogan moved there, it's really been kind of growing. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, when you have those like strong scenes and communities pop up, it's crazy the level. You know, just I've never seen comedy at that level and that many people on a night. It was just, you know, it was a good show. It was, you know, I kind of expected that, but I didn't really. You don't really understand the quality or what it is until you actually experience it. But and then, I mean, I'd fly back to Austin with, you know, Marla or something just to
see the comedy. And there's something about the energy in the room. You know what I mean? Like when comedy's hot and everybody's excited, it's a different vibe. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, you can tell they're all pushing each other. Yeah. And they were pushing some boundaries for sure. You know,
I can imagine. You know? Yeah.
Because they take your phones and stuff like that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And sometimes that's a thing where people are either working new stuff out. And that's the thing with digital era now. It's so hard because everybody's on their phone recording or taking pictures and stuff. And, you know, it can be tough trying to focus on your set if people are constantly got a camera in your face or something, you know. So
yeah, I'm not usually one at a concert or anything to really pull out my phone. I might take a picture of my son if we're at a concert together.
Yeah, of course, something. But
I'm not sitting there experiencing a concert through my phone secondhand.
I don't know why people even do that though. You know what I mean? It's weird. It's because it's nothing. I don't know if that's just the era we're in, but there's nothing better than just being live in the moment, you know? Like it's like it doesn't matter if you go like on a vacation or something. There's nothing better than just being on the beach and looking out and going, this is amazing, as opposed to like snapping a picture, you know? It's like you never can capture that feeling in a photo or a video or something like that, you know?
Exactly. It's like I think it's because you feel so good that you're like, I'm going to hold this moment. But it's like trying to take a picture of the moon.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's like, oh, it's a beautiful moon. You take a picture and it's just like a white blur.
It's just a blob. Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Yep.
And that's exactly so. Like once after you've done it a couple times, you should probably learn and be like, maybe next time I'll just stare at, you know, have the experience.
And there's something like I think younger people. There's something they're just so connected to their phone where everything needs to be uploaded and likes and shares and all that stuff. And it's like, you know, I'm in my 40s now, so I'm just kind of like, just being present, be in the moment, and you can. For me, it's easier just to kind of remember those moments as opposed to looking at a photo or something.
Yeah.
You know? Even the shows, like I'll do a comedy show and I'll look back on notes or something, or you know, photo, and I'm like, I remember the show, but you know, like the picture doesn't bring back the same feeling as when you were on stage or whatever, you know.
So I just turned 40 in January, and like you know, I'm butt dialing people now. Like we were talking about. So how old are you?
41 now. 41. Yeah, 41. So just a little ahead of you a little bit, but still, I don't know. It's weird. 40 people always say like 40. You're at that age where you know. I still feel like a young guy. You know, still having fun, still doing shows, traveling. So I mean. They always say age is just a number, so I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Are you feeling any different?
It's the body. My dad always said, "Oh, in my head, you know, I feel like I'm 25, you know, but you know, like I can tell my body's aging." And you know, I've tried to. My daughter got into skateboarding and started skating around with her.
Oh, cool.
You know, like last summer, and I realized like that was a good gauge because I used to skateboard. I'm like, oh, I don't have the agility. You know, I used to like flip around like a cat if I fell. Now it's like I'll just fall straight. I fall like a tree. And just you know, I'm on the ground before I put my hands out. Yeah, you know, it's amazing. It's crazy to see that kind of shift. You know,
100%. Like so this is just kind of funny because again, I feel like a young guy, but you don't come across as that young guy anymore. So I got to play in a Red Wings alumni game.
I seen that.
Too long ago. So it was the greatest thrill of my life because I'm playing against all the guys I grew up watching.
Yeah.
Like I even told my wife, I go, this is the greatest day of my life. Yeah. And my wife was like, really? The greatest day? Like, not the birth of our children, not marriage day. Skating with a bunch of sweaty, toothless men. That's your favorite day ever? Okay. So I'm like, all right, I'm kind of in the doghouse for that. But I was laughing because my wife is sweet. She films part of the game, you know, and so I'm like watching first of all, I'm watching the video thinking like, oh, I'm skating like the wind out there. And then you're watching it and you're like, oh, I don't move as fast as I used to be. Yeah. You know, I'm a little slower. But it's funny to hear the comments from my kids because I'm warming up. Mm-hmm. And my wife is kind of filming the warm up. And I hear my daughter go, I've never seen Dad stretch before. And then my son goes, yeah, I hope he can get up. You know, and so it's kind of like, like, again, I feel like that young guy when I'm like, oh, I guess I don't look at that. You know, I don't look the same. I don't, getting a little older. But, yeah, I the body thing, especially traveling, that's when I feel it. Just sitting on those planes and in the cars and stuff, trying to get to gigs. Sometimes it's like, ooh, I got to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, even a small cut takes longer to heal. It's like you didn't realize that when you're young, you're literally like a superhero.
Yeah, that's why I look up to Wolverine, right?
Right. Yeah,
like,
you were like
his
a
body would like
Wolverine.
heal so fast. It's like, man, I envy that. You know.
Yeah, my son got like a bad cut, and that thing just disappeared.
Yeah.
And, me, it would probably took 3 weeks longer, and I would end up with a scar.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, it's wild how that works. But yeah, mentally feel the same. I'm still excited about life and everything. Good, and pushing things and the same kind of like childlike sense of wonder and excitement, but the body kind of falls off.
So I mean, do you feel like, obviously because you're a creative guy, do you feel like that kind of keeps you kind of young? Because we did the film together,
right?
Which I loved. My only regret was that we didn't get to film more. You know what I mean? We only shot it in a day, and it was just so much fun hanging with you and Matt, and it was just a lot of laughs, and Dylan was so funny. But do you feel like the creative side kind of keeps you like, kind of energized and things like that?
Yeah, there's endless things on the menu.
Yeah.
I've kind of, learned the language of software and of creating. And when, with those two tools, especially today, you can do so much,
Absolutely.
So now I'm, wide-eyed. The other day we were watching a video and my wife falls asleep, we watch TV in bed and they were talking about this new AI tool, and I'm like, what? You can do what?
Yeah,
and then I jump out of bed, I'm up in the studio, and I'm up there till 1 a.m.
Of course.
I'm just excited about this new tool I can mess with and the endless possibilities with it. And, so there's always something to pick me up and get me. I'm always like pumped about something, it seems like, plus, planning trips with friends and or having friends over, good people around.
Yeah.
But
it's amazing when you find something you love to do. It never feels like work, right? When you get excited about something, I mean, that's the best, man.
Yeah. So you still feel that with comedy?
Still love it. Still absolutely love it. I mean, this will be 20 years of doing stand-up, which I can't even believe. I started when I was a kid, when I was like 21, here in Ann Arbor. And I love it. And there's still, to me, I still love hearing people laugh. I still love making people laugh. Still love getting up. The only downside is the old thing is just your body starting to feel it from traveling a little bit. That's the only downside. Like I remember doing shows in like Minneapolis and doing a show at like 9 o'clock, being done by 10:30 and going, I'm still awake. I guess I'll drive home. And driving 10 hours home, sleeping a couple hours, and waking up and like, I guess I'll go hit an open mic now. And the next day feel fantastic. Yeah. Now it's like I take like a 4-hour drive and I'm like, I need like 5 days to kind of like just recover. And so that's the only thing. It gets a little harder traveling, but like I said, I've been trying to find a little bit of a balance, just being home more. Yeah. And, not only just recovering, but like I said, hanging with the family. I mean, that's to me what I get excited about is just spending time with the family because they're always doing stuff. Like, especially kids, as you know, they're always saying silly things. Right. And you go, there's something there. There's a bit there. So, but I still love it. Yeah. Still get excited when shows get booked. I still get excited when I have a good show. Still feel the agonizing, crushing feeling when it doesn't go well, which you would think you're like, it'd go away. But still love it.
But still love the writing process.
Still love that. Still wearing my heart on my sleeve every show, and just coming up with new ideas and just playing, and it's great. Yeah, still having so much fun with it.
Yeah, I know. I felt that when I used to stay up till 2 a.m. go to work at 5.
Yeah,
and that was fine.
Yeah,
and I would wake up in the morning, and if I had something I made or something I accomplished, I would just be like, it's cool.
Feel good.
That would almost give me the energy. I'd watch the video I made or
look
at what I accomplished. But now it's not quite that way. Now I need to be in bed. If I'm in bed by like 12, I'm feeling it the next day.
It's if I'm not doing a show, I am in bed by like 8:39. Like I'm just that kind of guy right now. my wife's always like, let's watch a movie. I'm like, great. She'll pick something, and 5 minutes later, I'm out, you know. And,
I can't sit still. If I sit still for more than 5 minutes, I'm napping.
Yeah.
I'm a napper. I just fall asleep.
A couple 20-minute things every now and then. That's all you need. Yeah.
I've gotten probably like 35 is when I started it, but religiously after lunch every day.
Yeah. After,
and it's exactly 15 minutes. No alarm. I just clonk out. 15 minutes later, I'm up.
And then you're good to go. Beautiful, man.
Little cat naps.
Yeah.
That allows me to stay up till 11.
There you go.
But have you ever done a special or anything? Recorded your sets? I don't know if I've ever.
Yeah. So I've been lucky over the years. I did when I was a kid. I did a spot on Gotham Comedy Live in New York, which was a huge thrill of mine. Yeah, it was. That was kind of the. When I was a kid, and you watch comedy, it was always like Premium Blend was like the showcase show, and then eventually moved to Gotham on Comedy Central, and then there was they continued the show, but it went to like AXS TV or something like that. But that was always a goal of mine, to be on one of those showcase shows. So I got to go to New York and filmed it live, which was awesome. It was like 9 or 10 minute show, and nothing better than being in New York. And it was the one thing, like, I just want to be on TV once. Yeah, it's like hockey. It's like you just want to win the Stanley Cup once to say you did it, because once you do it, your name's out there forever. But then a couple of years later, I did the Dry Bar special. Which they do all clean comedy specials, and so it's like nice. You can kind of build a little audience off of that. You know what I mean? I get a lot of people that not only like send messages, but people come out on purpose, which is always nice. You're out on the road and somebody's like, "Hey, we're a fan of Dry Bar. We saw your special. We came out to see you." So it's it was kind of neat. Been kind of working on stuff over the last couple of years, trying to do a new one, but it's just a matter of when to do it and how to do it and stuff like that. But I'm not one of those guys who does like a new special every year.
Right.
Some guys are just prolific writers and can do that stuff. Mine's like kind of a combination of like, here's new stuff and then greatest hits. That's what I always call it, right?
Yeah.
So if you go see Springsteen, not that I'm on any level of that, but you know what I mean? It's like you go see Springsteen, he's going to go, all right, here's my new album, and now here's Thunder Road, here's whatever. And so I kind of do the same thing. It's like some people come to see certain bits, so it's like you got to kind of keep those in. And then obviously with the kids, different stuff changes in and out, and then obviously different observations, or talk a lot about being on the road. And
I'm sure the kids give you lots of material. How old are your kids?
It's endless material, man. Endless. I don't even consider myself a comedian as much as I'm a reporter now.
Right.
You know what I mean? I watch them and I go, there's something. I'll just write that down. But my daughter's 11 and my son is 9, so they're at that. They're still sweet. I can see the teenage years creeping up slowly.
Yeah, it's time to definitely be home. You don't have much time left before you're the...
Exactly. And it's, it's so cliche, but everybody's always told me that. Like, it goes by so fast. And then you're in the middle of it and you're like, holy smokes, 10 years is just flown by. And,
I've become that guy. I'm 40 now, and I'm the guy that's now like, you savor the moments. My daughter's about to be 17 tomorrow, actually.
Oh, awesome.
And then my son just turned 13.
Yeah.
So they're, he's already kind of...
He's ready to go.
Focusing on his friends. My daughter is kind of full-on adult
doing
now,
her thing. Yeah.
So.
Well, that's the thing with that technology is you get those Facebook memories, and you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe they were that tiny.
They used to come to the door and like greet me and be excited to see me,
and not scream what every time you try to talk to them or whatever. But no, I'm very lucky. They're both very sweet people, and that's a reflection of their mom for sure. She's the best, and it's tough. I mean, it's tough being a comic because you're gone. You are gone, and you do miss a lot of those little moments over the years. But just trying to, like you said, trying to be home more to enjoy those things before they're out with their friends and college and whoever knows what else. But
and someday you'll have grandbabies running around giving you material.
Hopefully. Yeah, right. That's the plan. Hopefully, keep doing it. That's the beautiful thing about stand-up, because it's always like, I always think like, there's really no retirement plan,
right.
But I'm like, hey, there's so many different markets. You could work forever,
Right.
I know guys that are in their 70s that are still going on the road and doing stuff. So, as long as I'm having fun, I keep doing it forever if I can,
And you built up somewhat of a resume. I'm sure it helped. Like, you probably got those contracts for like the ships, because you said I played the Gotham special and the Dry Bar, and we're able to show those accolades, which probably look well when you're applying for different things.
Yeah,
right?
you know, those things are tough to get, and especially when you're in the Midwest, it's hard. You know, it's like in New York, LA, you kind of have. It's a little bit. I don't say it's easier because I mean there are still a million comics, but to do it from the Midwest kind of seems impossible because anytime you try to like submit for like the Tonight Show or something, people are like, well, we don't know who you are. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, well, we know those guys in the clubs that we see all the time. So, you know, I consider myself very fortunate that I got to do a couple things, you know. I was a big fan of Bob and Tom growing up, too. Yeah. I don't know if you listen to those guys.
I used to listen to them, yeah.
Got to go in there a couple of times, and that was always just like a huge thrill. Like,
oh, really?
I was a kid. Cool. I think I was like 24 or 5, I think, when I got it.
I probably I wouldn't be surprised if I listened to you on that show because I used to do like landscape. You know, I mean, this is before podcasting,
right?
You know,
yeah.
And it was just a thing when if you worked, you know, if you were in a situation like I was doing landscapes, I was driving places or I would be delivering things with a dump truck.
Yeah, right.
That was just always on the radio.
Yep.
You know, you'd be following their little journeys. You know,
we used to listen to them on the way to high school. And I remember a buddy of mine's like, "You're funny. You should be on that show one day." And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be cool." But never thought in a million years you know, it's like, it's funny, but it's like, yeah, it's like, that's the cool thing about life is that long that,
right.
You know, you listen to those guys and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I can't believe I'm sitting in the same studio as them, goofing off, making them laugh, whatever. It's so, you know, like I said, I've never really kind of moved to New York or LA to kind of pursue like I don't know, like being famous or anything like that, but I'm very kind of happy where I'm at here in the Midwest. You know, for just everybody, you know, crowds are nicer here. And
yeah, it's amazing what time does. It's pretty cool. I mean, I know that you're a big Red Wings fan. It's amazing that you're able to manifest that and be skating around with legends.
Crazy. Life has just I've been very fortunate, man. You know, you try to be a good person and hope that karma kind of picks you every now and then, you know. And so
opportunity shows up and don't, you know, make sure it's not your fault if it's missed, you know.
Yeah, and you know, and it's like kind of the fun thing is like there's still projects here in Michigan, like you know what I mean. Like that was like the hike movie was seriously one of the most fun things I've ever been part of. Like it was, you know, people send scripts to you every now and then. You know, like I've gotten stuff over the years where like, hey, we're making this movie. We saw you in Ann Arbor or whatever, Royal Oak or something. We think you'd be great for it. And you kind of read the script and you're like, it's either not good or it's like super filthy or something like that. And I literally just got a random email from Matt. Right. And he was just like, hey, you know, I know you're a comedian, have this thing. What do you think? And I just immediately fell in love with that script. Like, I just thought it was such a cool idea. And then obviously, you guys are so talented with the cameras and everything else. It was fun to just be part of something creative, you know? And it's like, that's what I kind of noticed. Like, I don't know if that's like an older thing where it was like, yeah, you got to move to New York, you got to move to LA. But it's like, you can kind of be creative from anywhere, you
definitely.
know? And so it's like fun. Like Michigan really, I mean, there's a lot of creative people here, not just comics, but musicians, film people. I mean, Jeff Daniels lives like right up the road, you know what I mean? In Chelsea. So you go like, it's pretty cool that you can pretty much do what you want.
Yeah, there's no shortage of people to collaborate with, and you know, I've met a lot of people, you know, just because I'm in the film, and Marla, she's in the music, and we've got so many creative people around us, and I do plan on doing some more short films, but yeah, it's Quite the Hike was really fun, and that day was just the most beautiful fall day, you know, to be out filming, and I mean, it looked like a scene from like the Miles Spider-Man or something, like these leaves falling, you know, like the whole
visually
time.
It was beautiful. I mean, and then I know you did the extra work with the coloring and stuff like that. And I just remember that. I remember being there. It was like the first thing we shot. You guys were like, you're just going to walk in the woods and we have the drone. And I just remember thinking like, oh man, this is going to look awesome. And then when you actually got to see that shot, it was like, should give this guy an Oscar right now. Like it was such a beautiful shot, and like you said, it was just the perfect fall day. Like the colors of the leaves, and then you know just hanging with you and Matt, and then Dylan was just so funny in it too. It was fun to just kind of. I appreciated that Matt had the script, but then there was room for like, well, just try something, just play, you know. And it's always nice when you can just play and that's good. Keep doing that, do that. Or,
that was a real go-getter, you know. Like, I really like teaming up with him on the directing and stuff because, you know, we all only have so much time, you know? So it's like, it's nice when you, like me, I feel like I will always like kind of, put as much as I can in everything I make,
Yeah, of
and
course.
have another person there that was reaching out to you and doing things that I didn't think of. To bring it to that next level was really great. He was a great partner to partner up with.
He's a sweetheart of a man. We shot a thing last summer. Matt Kahn, who's a stand-up. I don't know if you've seen Matt at all. He filmed a movie called Personal Storage. It's about a guy who lives in a storage unit to try to save money for retirement.
And, that's what the film was
that was
about?
the film was about. And it was such a funny idea. And we were trying to get Matt, because I mentioned Matt and I mentioned you about doing the film. And Matt was busy with something, but he showed up one day for the set, and it was funny because I just love the collaboration. Like he would just kind of go like, hey, you did this. Why don't you try doing something like that? And it's just like, I love that when you can just have different ideas and just, like I said, just play and just see what works. And there's no harm in taking risks and seeing, you know what I mean? Right. Like, hey, what do you think of that take? Or should we dial it back or do this or that? It's fun to, just try stuff. Yeah. Just be creative and see what works, what doesn't work. And
yep, I've always loved it, and I've been doing it since I was in bands when I was younger.
Yeah,
it's the same kind of thing, writing music, and let's try this here, let's try that there. And when you have a good synergy with a group, I mean that's so hard to find because sometimes it only takes one person to throw off the energy or to make
or just negative
drama, negative.
I hate negative of no, just do that. Oh no, it can really take the wind. No is like the worst. Mm-hmm. It's the worst word because it just. It does. It deflates you. It's like, what's the harm in just trying it and seeing?
Yeah, especially when you're filming digital.
Yeah. It's not like you're burning film and, it's like you can do 100 different takes. That's kind of the fun of it. And then that's the tough thing with stand-up because a lot of it's just alone. I mean? It's like you got to be creative, but, you obviously bounce ideas off of other comics and things like that. But that's what I liked about the film was that there's just everybody was just so talented and knew.
So did that film, the storage unit one, did that come out? Did he release that?
Yeah, he released it. I think I can't remember if it was last summer or early in later in the fall. But they're kind of doing the same thing with it right now, putting in some small or some of the festivals, kind of like what you guys were doing with.
So it might not be online yet.
I think it's on like YouTube. Okay. I think right now, and it was just a funny idea. It actually came Matt Kahn wrote a book, and I can't remember what the name of the book was, but it was fantastic. It was such a nostalgic.
Oh, yeah, I think you sent it to me.
It was trade wins or trade something.
About the kid who collects baseball cards.
About the guy doing the baseball cards. So it was like for me, I saw it and I was like, man, I could see this being like the Sandlot or something, where it's just kids riding their bikes, going to these trading cards. There's all kinds of other little dramatic things throughout. I think I sent that to you guys, and I was like, we should talk to him about trying to turn it into like either a short or full length thing. Yeah. And I remember talking with Matthew Baron Ratz, and he was like, well, it's good, but he goes it's going to be really hard to film, and that's what is always tough being like an independent is because like what I mean, you write. Like, for example, you write a script about zombies and robots, and you go, well, there's no way we're going to be able to film this because we don't have an AI budget. We don't have, all these special effects. So that was like kind of the thing. It was like, it's a good script, but it's going to cost crazy amount to probably be able to do. And so Matt kind of was like, oh, okay. Well, Matt Kahn was like, well, I got another script. What do you think of this? And then, it looked like it was like, oh, this is super easy to shoot. You just need a storage unit, a couple of people. Yeah. Hired some very funny comics to be in it. And
so did the comics come and like kind of hang out in the storage unit with their friend? Well, first, what's the name of it?
It was called Personal Storage.
Personal Storage.
And
it's a great name.
And it was great. It was funny because being a comedian, I was really excited about, hey, let's just play around. But then it was like, the direction I was given was like, Dan in Real Life, if you've ever seen that movie with Steve Carell, where he's kind of mopey throughout the whole movie. And the other Adam Sandler one where he's kind of mopey. He's like, yeah, we just kind of want you to be like mopey. And I'm like, can I do this? It's kind of funny. Like, no, just mopey. So it was like, as a comedian, it was kind of hard to do like a serious like part, but it was awesome because it was just, exactly that. All these comics were showing up on set, like just, hey, let's just hang out, whatever. And then, there were some other funny moments. So you would have comics kind of bouncing ideas off, like, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? And it's like, for me, I got excited just being around that creative. Like, people are just throwing ideas out. Let's try this. Let's try that. And it's something that really kind of gets me turned on, really, really get excited because it's just fun. First of all, it's fun making movies, but then two, it's fun just hanging out with funny people and
that's actually what caused me, what hooked me into filmmaking was Marla was in a Christmas movie, Cupid's Christmas, and I went out to set with her and met, the director and the guys that were all working on it. I'm like, these are my people.
Yeah.
Like, they're all just creating, and, I didn't say much because I'm not involved with it.
Right.
But I still threw out, you just have to walk in here, and I just got my hook. I was like, this is something I want to be able to do. Like,
absolutely.
Because I was pitching, a lot of what I do right now is I go out and I would film people and do documentaries and stuff like that, and working with businesses, which I enjoy. But seeing that, I was like, oh, this kind of reminds me of being in a band and just having this team that you collaborate with and create something out of. And if you're doing something like a show or do a couple of films with the same team and think about how much better you get as a group,
Well, and again, it's like you find certain people that you just bounce ideas off really well, and you go, all right, that's my guy. That guy gets me. That guy gets my sense of humor or whatever. And then, those are the people you kind of want to work with more,
Yeah.
And so try to do different things. And so,
like
I said, there's such a...
I've always wanted to do something that was like, I'm always thinking about, like you said, about the practicality of an idea, So I've, being
excuse me,
a video editor, the second I started editing videos, I would have friends come up to me and be like, all right, it's about a Godzilla type creature that comes into a city. And you're like,
yeah,
it's a great idea, but it's always like not feasible.
It's so hard to start, and that's one thing I remember talking with Matthew about. He's like, I've got ideas, and so the goal is to, like, you kind of start small, and then once you kind of, you know what I mean, then you can always kind of work your way up to eventually. I'm sure Christopher Nolan wasn't shooting, Oppenheimer or whatever the first time.
Right.
It's like he made smaller shorts and blah, 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 whatever.
And sometimes you get lucky like, what's his first name? Rodriguez, the one who did the Desperado.
Yeah.
I mean, your first movie is a hit
right,
for 16 grand.
Right, exactly. I mean, it can be done. I mean, Kevin Smith with Clerks, and there are those little avenues, but
a lot of that was from repetition. Because he did so many, and then eventually it takes off. But
it's like Spielberg. I think he was like a prodigy, right? Like he started when he was like 7-8 years old with a camcorder, and it's amazing. It's fun to watch geniuses work, or just creative people work. That like even with you, where you would kind of sit there and you'd go, well, let's shoot it from this way or whatever, and you go, oh, all of a sudden, the shot's better because you've got the background and stuff. It's really fun to watch people work sometimes.
Yeah, the more you shoot and edit, the more you're shooting for the edit. I used to write notes to myself when I was editing, like, hold the shots longer. Why don't you have any still shots?
Yeah,
like just notes for the next time I went and shoot, and I would read those notes, and that shooting, editing thing just gets you so much better at knowing what to capture, and also, capturing always more than you need because it just saves you so much work in the editing.
It's better to have too much than too little. Yeah,
but I've always thought, just for the practicality of, like, having a team together and really developing your system, is to have. This is why sitcoms were so popular, because it was like they mostly shot in one set, and then maybe once in a while they were out at a coffee shop. Right. So I've always thought it'd be great to do something like that and maybe make it like designed for the internet.
Yeah,
so instead of it being an episode once a week, it's an episode every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yeah,
and then that is like a whole kind of theme. It has an arc of its own on top of the arc of each episode, and then you could have seasons. But I thought it'd be really great just to have like a couch or whatever, and you have people that just show up.
That's all you need. Yeah,
good dialogue,
good characters, and you're on your way. Yeah,
my cousin's really good at dialogue. I'm always good at like the overarch, like designing the arches of the stories and kind of designing the overall hanging structure. But when it comes to the dialogue, he's one of those people, and I always appreciate it, and it's a muscle I got to work on. But when you see really good, thoughtful dialogue in a show, it's just, I get hooked right away.
Some guys are just perfect at that. I feel the same way. Like I can always go like, here's the beginning, here's the middle. This kind of happens. There's a little bit of a twist, do a little callback, and that's the end.
Yeah, we watched so many movies, and then we know the patterns.
So you kind of know like, here's kind of how I want to set it up, or this is the joke, and here's the payoff at the end. It's just the meat of it. Like, what are they saying to each other? It's like my dialogue is like, hey. How are you?
Yeah,
really good. How are you? And you're like, no one talks like that. Like it's so.
It's just the dialogue needed to move to the next hit point or the next plot point or whatever, but instead of dialogues that can really develop the characters.
And that's what I'm saying. Some guys are so good at just going like Matt Kahn was like that, where he was, I've got this idea about blah blah blah, and I go, oh, okay, cool. And then he sends it like a day and a half or 2 days later, and I'm reading it. I'm like, this is actually like really good.
Yeah.
Like the dialogue's good, makes sense. It like you said, not only sets up the character, but it also, kind of gives you an idea of where the scene is going to go and stuff. And some people are good at just they just know how to do it.
Yeah, my cousin Tony actually credited Clerks for kind of getting because I grew up watching Clerks and being into Kevin Smith and his writing style because he's got that. Very natural, very. I just started watching 4 seasons on Netflix. Steve Carell, I think it's produced by Tina Fey.
Love Steve Carell.
The writing in it is just great. It's one of those kind of shows where you're just like, wow, this is.
And you wonder how much of it, especially those shows, how much of it is improv and how much of it is like probably the same thing. Like we have lines, but there's probably room for goofing off a little bit.
Or you get your lines and you're like, because you're a comedian, you're a creative. You say, what about this? And they're like, yeah. And then
try that.
It's not because I don't think it comes from one person's head. When you see that much really good dialogue in a show, it's like. It's not coming from just a writer's table.
Well, yeah, and especially Steve Carell and Tina, they started Second City, right? So they're probably just so used to like just riffing and playing around or whatever. I mean, that guy, like I said, I don't use the word genius too much, but I think that guy's a genius, Steve Carell. Like everything, like he can go and just be so super silly in like The Office, and then you see him when he does serious work too. You're like, this guy's actually got some pretty good acting chops too, So it's fun to just see that kind of.
And they only get better, they might be getting older, like we said, and bodies are falling apart, but mentally, still they have more experiences, more knowledge, more muscle, more. They've seen more patterns. They've done so. It's like they're just putting out better and better stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about that show. I think that's on our watch list. But
it'll pull you in. Yeah. It's one show that I'm trying to hold Marla.
Trying to stay awake.
We're bad for. We'll start a show and then I come and I'm like, "Are you ready to watch the next episode?" She's like,
"I'm done.
I've already watched." It's like. So we're really.
So are you a binge guy? Like, will you sit there and like if you find something you like, you'll just binge like 7, 8 episodes? Something?
I can binge a little bit, especially like at work. Sometimes I'm doing things like, programming radios because I work at U of M. That's my main job, and so if I'm doing certain things like doing the dishes, I'm sitting there and I got my phone and as long as it's not like Lord of the Rings or some like super action thing, I don't mind watching it on my phone and I can watch it for a couple hours of the day.
That's how I am. I generally don't watch. It sounds silly, but I don't watch a lot of shows. But then when I do, it's like done. Like a buddy of mine recommended the Larry Sanders Show. If you ever saw that with
Larry Sanders,
it's Gary Shandling from it's an old HBO show from probably like the 90s or something like that.
Okay.
He's always telling me like it's the best TV show ever. So I went out and bought the box set for like $30 or something like that. And so it's basically the premise of the show is like Gary Shandling is a late night show host. He has a sidekick who's he's very needy. Mm-hmm. Then he's got his producer who's always trying to keep the show together. And then obviously you have the writers that are always the little quirks and stuff. So it's like this backstage of this late night show. And I was on a ship and I had like 2 or 3 weeks off and very slow schedule, only doing like 2 shows a week. And I binged that whole show, like 9 seasons or 8 seasons, whatever it was, in 2 weeks. It was like, oh, I love this. I'm going to watch 7 episodes in a row. And it's like something about, like you said, good, creative, funny stuff. It doesn't feel forced. And all of a sudden you look and you go, man, I just killed like 4 hours.
Well, there's also a thing of, nowadays, like that's a lot better than just flipping through and getting brain rot on your phone, hopping from subject to subject to topic. Like, there's when I'm binge watching something like that, like I slept on The Sopranos forever. And I did that like last year or something. But my mind's still kind of one pointed on this story for a good amount of hours in the day or whatever while I'm doing things. So it's like I actually feel a little mentally more clear than if I happen to be scrolling on my phone.
Well, and you get into the characters, right? And then there's usually the really good ones. They'll sucker you in by having like a cliffhanger at the end. So you're like, well, I got like Cobra Kai was always, I got to watch the next one because I got to see what happens. And watching that till 4 a.m. or something.
Yeah, I think they got some new episodes I got to get on.
Yeah. I think I've heard they've got like a new season or something. I don't think I've seen the last one yet, but. Yeah, it was a good show for
all that kid drama.
Yeah. It's like, I loved it. I'm like, teen drama. Here we go.
I think that
karate. You're like, this is great.
Yeah, my thoughts on that book was kind of like the same thing. Like how the main thing that's tricky isn't really the shots because you can do any neighborhood. And I've also always wanted to do like a '90s time. Yeah, that's like a dream of mine. Eventually, I'm going to do a full-length film that's like nostalgic, the stuff that I miss, and bringing back and. But it's like relying on the kids for the early stuff and then that requires a parent to be there, and you're gonna definitely have to go through like the film. Whatever that is the.
There's a lot of little. If you're filming with like youth, there's a lot of hoops and stuff you got to jump through. And that was one of the things that Matthew Baron Ratz mentioned about that Trade Winds book was like,
but man,
it's all kids. But
you read the book, you can see
you read it, and you go,
like,
this is the great.
Perfect.
This is just like the Sandlot. It's just nostalgia. Them going to these card shows and stuff. You're like, this is what I grew up doing, man. Riding the bikes and going to the supermarket and getting the the little vending machine with the cards and stuff. And so. I hope one day somebody reads that book and just goes, let's make it. Because I think it could be a...
well, like you said, maybe Matt, doing these shorter, smaller features will work up to the point where they're like...
I hope so.
Somebody else says, I want to come on board. You're already doing great work. I'll come on board too with some funding and
absolutely
make it happen.
Absolutely. That's the dream for everybody. But I think he's got some good projects. And there's always a need for content right now because everyone's out there binge watching shows and ready for the next show to hit Netflix. That seems to be everything. Whatever. Comedy, short videos, everything is just content. That's what people tell me about, like comedy, just content, put little clips out. Everybody wants to see whatever. People are just so starved for creative stuff. It's, people just cranking stuff out. So
the phones are always right there. And I think... I used to mainly do audiobooks and podcasts, but then like a shift happened maybe 3 or 4 years ago where now it was like, hate to say it, but even driving, if it's not something I need to watch, I'll just have it on my,
Yep.
I mean, like even podcasts, I'm like, oh, well, give me the YouTube video. So if they show something, I can glance over.
Something quick. And I mean, it's amazing. These podcasts are amazing that they're like 4 hours long and people like this one, I'm like, who's listening to it for 4 hours? But some people do, some people
if it goes for 4 hours, it's probably... A good
some good
episode
or something
I mean, because really the thing is, it's not so much with podcasts. I don't think it's not so much about the content or the value you're delivering or even the laughs or something. It's just like this a conversation because you're a fly on the wall just kind of being nosy and listening to this conversation. So it's like if the conversation goes that long and flows, you're probably just going to lose track of time and just...
Those are the ones I love listening to, like if it's like Seinfeld or Jay Leno talking about comedy or their experiences in comedy. It is kind of, like you said, be a fly on the wall and just kind of listen. Like, what's their writing process? What are they... How do they develop material? How do they do that stuff? And I'm sure it's like that in any other field. Like, there's probably filmmakers and all kinds of stuff. So it's a good era to be in because it's just there's so much... information that could be pumped out. So
today, if you're a creative or a comedian or like me being in filmmaking or like messing around with AI stuff right now, it's like to be able to really dive into somebody's head that knows a subject really well, and they're just giving you all the
they're giving you the cheat codes, right? They're just like, hey, this is what I did, follow it, and boom, 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 and you'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah, like there's never been a time like that unless they wrote a book, where you really dive deep. Because even radio back in the day was kind of like, we got to keep fast paced, move to the next person, the next guest.
Absolutely.
And, so unless they, actually sat down and wrote a book themselves or something, you weren't able to get, the formulas and the cheat codes. Absolutely. But now today, it's just it's amazing how much. And how amazing it feels. It's like you come across like treasure, or you win a little jackpot when somebody drops some good knowledge on you.
You could never do stand-up ever, and you could listen to a guy do a podcast about here's how you write, here's how you get on stage, here's how you do this, and within whatever couple months you could be a comedian, or anything, a cook. those master classes where it's, hey, this is how you run for political office or what, whatever you want. There's a blueprint to do it. So, I mean, it's if people really are enthused and interested in it, they can figure out how to do whatever they want to do, which is just amazing.
So it's like, you're not out there blowing in the wind trying to figure out how to do something. There's a path. Somebody can hand it right to you. 100%. Just like they say, follow a business model that's already proven.
Absolutely.
Because it's proven there's a market. It's like that's the easiest way to get started.
Absolutely.
So, and then you can, once you know the rules, you can break them and
go your own way. Set your own tone.
So I'm kind of curious how you first got in. Like, tell me about your first show or
so my very first show, I was actually 18 years old. I started at Central Michigan University. I was only like 2 or 3 weeks into college, and they had like an open mic where it was anybody could do anything. So it was people playing instruments, poets. I followed a guy who did a poem about death.
Oh, that's a great setup.
Was like, nobody cares. Life is stupid. All right, see you guys. And then it's like, are you guys ready to laugh? It's like, oh no.
That's kind of perfect though.
Yeah.
Like,
so they
were like, I'm definitely going to make people happier than this guy did.
They were primed and ready to go. And so it was, I just remember it was in the cafeteria, and there was probably, 100, 150 students. And it sounds weird, but the minute I grabbed the microphone, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do forever. Like, really? I was a huge fan of, the Comedy Central Presents and Saturday Night Live. And I just thought, oh, this, like, to me, I was like, I can't believe I'm actually doing stand-up right now. This is so cool. Like,
this is the first, I'm making the first, this is a step. I'm doing it.
I remember thinking, like, this is the journey starts tonight. Here we go. And it went pretty well for the first time. It was all material on kind of living in the dorms and living at my parents' house and buying books and things like that. And it went really well. And I remember it went so well that I'm like, all right, I'm going to skip school like all day tomorrow because
I'm a comedian now.
I'm going to be a comedian. I'm going to be so famous. This is sick. And then a couple months later, I did another mic and bombed miserably. Like,
now was that like a comedy club? So it was like nerves.
No, it was the same kind of thing. It was like an open mic. And I just remember my first joke didn't land. And I was like, all right. And then I did like 2 or 3 jokes, and those were getting laughs. But I was so annoyed that the first one didn't work.
Couldn't get it out of your
I was
head.
just like, why didn't that work? Anyways, so then I just kind of got kind of flustered. Like, I don't, anyways. And then I kind of forgot what I was going to do and was just kind of like mumbling, and then was like, all right, well, I'll see you guys later. Sorry. And I remember I apologized. Like, I'm sorry about that, everybody. And people were like, no, it was fine. But I was so like, just, and then it kind of like dawned, like, kind of that beginner's luck. Like, oh, you get a little beginner's luck. But then, like, oh, this is kind of hard.
Yeah. And it's you probably always feel like an ebb and flow, don't you? Like some being, and it's also probably contingent on the audience, too.
100%. There's so many different personalities in the audience, and you just got to find a way to connect with them, Yeah. And so I did that. I did open mics at Central Michigan for about 2 or 3 years, maybe only 2 or 3 shows a year. And then I won like a funniest person on campus contest. It was me and my friend Greg Amorose, who was stand-up for a little bit and then got smart and got a real job. But he and I got to open for Bobby Lee, funny enough.
Oh,
it was in this big theater. And I just remember asking him, like, how do you do stand-up? And he kind of gave me the most cliche advice, but it was the smartest advice. It was just write as much as you can and get on stage as much as you can. And he go, oh, that makes sense. So I just turned 21, and I decided, okay, I'm going to start going into like you can make your friends laugh on campus, but you got to kind of go somewhere else to see if it actually works. So I turned 21, started hitting the comedy clubs. And so I count those shows in my book or whatever, but it's 21 to 41, so been doing it professionally for 20 years. So
yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with everything. Want to be a good filmmaker, shooting at it. Yeah, shooting at it every week, whatever.
Yep. It's just that repetition of figuring out how to do it, and
well, it's the same thing if you want to, bench 300 pounds. It's like you got to work out every week.
Yep.
It's work. It's all follows the same rules.
100%. So so when I started my senior year, I started skipping night classes to drive to like Grand Rapids and Ann Arbor and stuff. So by the time I graduated, I was already kind of like hosting in comedy clubs, and then a couple months later, kind of started featuring and then started going on the road. You know, I had some comics that kind of liked me and started traveling. So I probably was traveling a little faster and probably not when I was quite ready, but it was like nice to get those opportunities where people would be like, you know, normally you do like a 30-minute middle spot and they'd be like, just do like 20 and just see what happens. And then, you know, just people were always sweet to give me opportunities, and I'm always grateful for that, and trying to pass that along to other comics, because everybody deserves a chance to try to figure it out.
Yeah, so once they get to the certain level of working on their own, and they look like they're putting, you know, because you can't just pull and lift somebody up, but if they're ready for the opportunity, then they made the steps.
It's all reps, and it's all reps. Sometimes you do great, sometimes it doesn't go well, and then it's just figuring out, well, why didn't it go well? Why did it go well? Right. And it's just, you know, you just do it for forever, and you just keep going and going, and then got very lucky to where it just snowballed into a pretty nice career. So,
what were your favorite kind of favorite venues when you were kind of starting off as a Michigan comedian, like Michigan?
So Michigan, again, it's, you know, I had friends that moved to New York and LA, and, you know, I went out to New York, LA, and did like the Comedy Store and, you know, Gotham and Dangerfields, all these places. But the one thing that was crazy to me is you'd talk to these guys and you'd be like, so when are you performing? Oh, I got a show next week, and then 2 months from now I've got another, you know, and you go like, what are you doing in between 2 months? So for me, the thought was like, I'm just going to stay in the Midwest and just get shows and hopefully get kind of good, and then
get the reps in.
And then maybe eventually go to one of those towns. But Michigan was great because there were just so many venues, and they were all long weeks, you know. So like Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase, still for me my most favorite club, not only in Michigan but in the country. Like, it's just set up perfect. I'm not sure if you've been there, but again, low ceiling, packed in, they're right on top of you. You get a big laugh, it shakes the room a little bit, and it's just Roger has just been just so sweet to me over the years, just giving me opportunities and stuff like that. So I love the showcase. Lansing Connections, when that was still open, it was a really good club that would go like, I think Wednesday through Saturday or something, maybe Tuesday. So you do 6, 7, 8 shows a week. So that's just how you get good. It's just that repetition of here's another one, here's another one, here's another one. Dr. Grins in Grand Rapids, that was still is a very hot room. It was like one we always liked because it's kind of younger college kids. So when we were starting off, it's like, all right, these guys kind of get me talking about college or, you know, whatever else. And so it's just a hot room. And then obviously the Comedy Castle is a great one too. They've been around forever.
I seen Duncan Trussell there a long time ago. One time I went there, but we love the number of showcase we've been there. You wouldn't even expect it to be there. You know, it's just kind of hidden.
It's hidden.
Go down this elevator. You know,
it's like hidden. You're like, am I in the right spot? You know, you're kind of like creeped out because it's like a dark hallway, and you're like, is this the right spot? And then you go down this staircase, and then it's like this beautiful showroom, and it's everything you love about a comedy club. The floors are sticky from spilt beer and soda.
All the pop.
It's just burnt, and you just go, what is this? And then you get on stage and go, this is the greatest room ever. And it was a nice place for me. So I took comedy classes, believe it or not, there. I was taught by a guy named Chili Chalice, who used to write for The Tonight Show. And I use the word comedy class, but it's more like a writing class. You know, it would be like, we'd sit there and he'd be like, okay, so what's unique about you? You have a family, you've got a job, you've got this. That's the stuff you should be talking about. And so we would just take that and we would do it. You know, we'd come in with like 5 minutes every week or whatever, and we'd go, hey, and we'd go up and kind of practice it. And he would kind of sit in the back and go, I like that. Why don't you try to stretch that out? Or here's
who was doing that? Was he doing it?
It was a guy named Chili Chalice. So he was a stand-up for 30, maybe 40 years, and he wrote for Jay Leno. And he's a very sweet man. Used to travel with him a lot on the road and stuff like that as well. And he just had that comedic mind where you could just kind of go, oh, that's really good. Maybe try this or try that. And so it was like, as a guy starting off,
he was teaching you how to think about.
He's teaching you how here's an angle, you try this, try that. And I would take the class often because it was a great way to just test material out. And so it was a good way to kind of grow. And then so we'd take the class, do the open mics there, and eventually you'd get hired to kind of work there, you know. And then,
very cool.
So I started as an open micer, was hosting, featuring, now headlining there after several years.
That's such a great idea. I know I have a guy at my work that wants to get up. It's hard to even get up there for an open mic night. It's
of course, yeah.
But it's a great idea to kind of like create the system that coaches people into the role, and then also it's kind of like vetting them in a way.
100%.
It's very clever.
100%. I think the Castle does that as well. There's a guy, Bill Bouchard, who's a very funny stand-up. Very good, very talented guy. And I think he kind of does the same thing. I've never taken his class, but I mean, they crank out so many great comics. But Brad Wenzel, I think, started there, and a couple other guys that are really good Michigan comics. And I think that they kind of do the same thing where they kind of take them from the class, try to help them get stage time during the open mic, and then eventually, they start working the club and stuff. So it is nice to kind of see that there is a system of support for younger or new, I should say younger, but just newer comics that are trying to figure it out, and then kind of reward them as they get back.
It seems like a lot of people, I watch like Kill Tony. It seems like a lot of new comedians kind of make that same mistake of like telling jokes that don't really resonate with their life or their life experience. And Tony always brings it up, like, tell me about yourself. And it's like, this is what you should be writing about. Like these are the things that you've been through that a lot of other people would resonate with, and you could come from like a honest place when you talk about it. Like you talking about parenting and your kids and stuff.
It's so hard coming up when you're starting because you're just trying to get laughs, and
and you're young too, so you don't have as much.
Yeah, I was 21, so it's like I had Taco Bell and college
jokes.
And then you're performing for 50-year-olds who are like, we don't go to Taco Bell and we don't care that you go to college, so you don't connect.
Right.
And then you're like, well, those people laughed, and then you realize like, well, that's the audience. And so, it's so hard to just start, and then
a 50-year-old's body can barely handle Taco Bell.
Yeah, exactly. I'm 40. I can barely take it. So it's like, but that's what it is. It's a lot of just trying to figure out that first year. You're like a baby. You're just like, I don't know how to get on stage. How do I hold the mic, the lights? I don't know. And then eventually you get comfortable, and then you start. Yeah, it's just that repetition of like, what works, what doesn't, what should I talk about? And I mean, a lot of people start when they're younger, but it's almost an advantage to start when you're older, because then you just have that much more life experience, kind of things you could talk about. So.
Yeah, I write down little, like, sometimes, when you're talking to somebody, something just comes out, and you're like, oh, man, that could be stretched out.
Could be a bit,
what I'm saying? So I have, like, I'll jot down, like, the little notes, and I always think someday I'll go and make a little set and try to do it.
Well, that's what it is. That's how it is. It's usually just conversations with people, and you go, oh, they laughed at that, and then you try it out, and it works in front of a bigger group or something, and you stretch it out, and it's all just throwing it against the wall and seeing what sticks. It's a very time-consuming process, but I think, and that's kind of just the name of the game, is like you've got these guys in New York that crank out a new, like Bill Burr or somebody who's doing a new hour every,
and it's just
2-3 years,
great every time.
Yeah, but it's also like, well, he's getting on stage probably 3-4 times a night in New York, just bouncing set to set.
Yeah, he's not going disappearing and writing, for most of a year and then recording
and then coming back. Yeah, it's like he's doing these small little showcases. I mean, same thing when I got usually coming up in the summer. That's usually when you'll kind of see me in the clubs. It's kind of a joke. Somebody said to me one time, they're like, I can tell you're working new stuff because we see you everywhere. It's like, it's when I go, all right, I got 10 minutes. I want to just hit these mics and just try to fine tune them. And then once they're kind of fine tuned, you can sneak them into the.
So is that because like the comedy club scene kind of picks up as far as people going to them, like in the fall and winter?
Yeah, it's more the opposite. There's not as many people in the clubs in the summer because, obviously Michigan, you've got, beautiful weather. People are going to the lakes,
barbecue,
whatever, doing all kinds of stuff. So for me, it's a nice sample size. It's, maybe 50 or 80 people. You kind of go, all right, I'll just try. So there's not as much pressure. It's a packed room and you're doing new stuff. It doesn't go well.
And plus, you probably want to come during the busy season with material that's already worked out.
You want to come stuff that you go, or at least I have an idea of this should work or whatever. And you got to always sandwich those newer bits and stuff that works. That's kind of what most people do, is you kind of start with something that works, and then you go, all right, here's the new stuff. So if it doesn't go well, you can go, oh, hey, I'll win you back with this stuff. But it's a very interesting process.
Yeah, it's always fascinated me. Me and my cousin talked a bunch. We used to do that when I first got into the podcast, it was with him, and we did it, and we kind of forced ourselves to do that because it was nerve wracking. I think this was 10 years ago or something. We're like, we just got to do it. Let's just do it.
Yep.
We high-fived and just went for it.
That's right.
And push past that uncomfortability. Nobody likes to hear their own voice.
Of course.
And we've always said that we would kind of do that with comedy at some point.
Yeah, you should.
Push each other.
Well, let me know, man. I'll be definitely there for you.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it.
Start sending you random. What do you think about this?
What do you think of this? Yeah.
This mentoring is really a burden.
You get you get so many. That's the fun thing about being comics. I'm always sending texts to people like, "Hey, I got this thing. What do you think of that?" And that's just a natural thing comics always do, and bouncing ideas off.
I wonder if
trying to stretch it out.
So. I did have a second where I was like, I should. I don't know if I even have them. Like, I think my notes should be it's way down here, so I haven't even opened it in a while. Put myself on the spot. Boring people are more likely to be on time. Motorcycle arcade games were fun when you were little, but over time they just become a joystick for your butt.
Yeah.
So it's not personal. These are probably early jokes.
But these are The boring one hit me because I showed up early and I felt like, this is gonna be. Yeah.
I remember when lighters were the most convenient light source on the fly. I had to use one not long ago, and it was creepy.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't do that anymore. You got phones.
You got phones.
Nobody doesn't remember when you just pull out a lighter to find something.
Go through stuff. Yeah. They do it at rock concerts too. They'd have the lighters holding.
Now it's just the screens, but I kind of feel like the screens are more majestic looking.
Yeah, they're awesome looking
because they have this like glimmering
something with a glow and it is looking. It is
a little bit better than the analog.
Yeah.
That one's a little naughty, dirty.
I can't do that one on the show. Save that one for the late show. And what's fun is you're going to go on stage and just throw these out, and sometimes they're going to chuckle, and sometimes they don't. And the ones that don't work, you just try to retweak them or try to rewrite them or whatever. But I think you could do it, buddy.
Yeah.
I think you could do it.
Are Christian preachers the only ones that wear the skin-colored microphones on their faces? Observations. It's just weird. It's probably all stuff that came up when I was BSing with people.
It's funny though. It's stuff that's basically that's no different than the stuff that I do.
Right.
I mean, you're pulling out your cell phone and you're like, you've got ideas. That's literally all my phone is. It is just on my notes. It's just ideas and little thoughts and random things like that, and then you just go on stage and try them.
Yeah, when you sit down to like write, you're like, okay, what ideas do I have over the last week? And then you just start trying
and
to
you just kind of
them
put them together, and you go, and the trick is like you go, that one was funny. That one's not as funny anymore. Don't need to try that one. And it's just really, for me, it's like it seems like it's the opposite. The ones I'm like, this one's not that good. That's the one that gets a laugh. And then the ones I'm like, I'm really in love with this one. They're like, no. So it's like you're always walking that tightrope. Even when the stuff is supposed to work. Sometimes it doesn't.
Well, it's like you're not really your target audience. You probably laughed laughed a lot when you thought of it, which made you write it down.
Yep.
But then it's like,
does
it make everybody? Does it make the 50-year-olds laugh that can't eat Taco Bell?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Or they're on a cruise ship and they're tired and you just never know.
You ever make like comments about how sunburnt everybody is, or?
You try to do a little bit of crowd stuff, and there's certain bits that I do like for ships. There's just stuff like certain ports you go to. They're all kind of the same. So there's like a different act on the boat than there is on land, and then a little bit of crossover. You do some stuff from your land act on there, but it's a little different audience. So again, there's different things you can notice to kind of connect with them and stuff. Buffets and elevators and all that.
Some people are just on the next level with crowd work, and like that's their main thing and that's like really improving, and something about that seems really intimidating and crazy to be like the focal point, and then you really got to be sharp on your feet to
it's interesting
start interacting with the crowd and letting them say whatever they want to say and going with it.
It's really interesting because back probably when I started 20 years ago, there was a sign of weakness. Like, this guy's act's not working. He's going into the crowd, That was like the thing. Like, he's doing crowd work. Hey, he's really kind of, trying to dig himself out of this hole right now with crowd stuff. And now with the internet, and I was talking to a friend of mine, but it's kind of interesting because he's like, most people don't go out to comedy shows, so they want to see that live in the moment kind of thing. And so that's why a lot of these short reels are just, hey, look at it. It's just fun. We're playing around.
Yeah.
And so, just some really good comics that are really good at it. A couple of guys locally mentioned Bill Bouchard. He's really good at crowd stuff, just playing in the moment. Really funny guy, and when it's working, it's amazing. But it
seems like you said, it seems like with the small comedy clubs, like that's a showcase. It seems like most of the comedians I've seen there do a little bit of crowd work. Yeah. And like you said, it makes this thing of like, oh, I'm having a unique experience. Like, this is live and improv, and it's
happening right now. We're in the moment. We're focused. We're having fun. The stuff I do is usually just to lead into bits. Hey, I want to talk about marriage.
Got kids?
Let's talk to them, and then exactly. Hey, you got kids? You can riff a little bit.
And then, down. You got kids,
and then go right into, you have kids? No. How about you? You have kids? No. Okay. So, anyways,
well, what do you do with all your free time? What do you do with all your free time?
Exactly.
Let me live vicariously for you. Yeah, that's great. The showcase. Just to share like a really great date, because me and Marla have done this a few times now. You go there, you get dinner somewhere. I think Blue Tractor is really good, but there's lots of great restaurants. Yeah. And then after you eat, you go in the basement of the Blue Tractor, and there's like at that little venue down there, and there's usually a guy playing acoustic. So you can have like a drink, and then you go catch the comedy show. Yep. And then after the comedy show, you go back to the Blue Tractor, and there's usually a full band setting up. So if you want to like hang out longer,
it's amazing,
and you can dance, and
it's great.
We've done that like twice, and it's just like such a great little package date, and you're just walking.
It's amazing. And comedy is always one of those. I love when people come up and they go, "We should do this more. We should do this more," because it is. People forget about it. They go to movies or they go to music or something, but there's nothing better than just laughing and being able to forget about your problems for a little bit, give them that little vacation, and then get everybody in a good mood. And it's a great thing, man.
The energy of a live show is always just next level. I've seen, I watched specials and I went and seen that same person, it's the different special, and it's amazing. Just the energy you have, like that you're picking up on from everybody else who's laughing too, is just next level.
It's the greatest sound in the world, and there's nothing better than seeing live. I mean, the same thing. I've seen guys on TV that I thought like, they're okay, and then you see them live, and you go, oh wow, this is different, and it's just the energy and just you're a different comic in a packed room, man. Different.
Yeah, it's great. I think it has gotten a lot more popular. Obviously, people appreciate.
There's a boom. There's a boom for sure. Even here in Michigan, it always seems like there's a lot of good younger, newer people starting, and obviously you've got places like Austin that are blowing up, Nashville with Nate Bargatze and kind of cleaner stuff that's blowing up. So it's not necessarily just New York or LA anymore. You got Chicago, you got these what they call the flyover states. There's a lot of good scenes popping up there, so it's good to see that comedy's just
I like the democratization of everything, even filmmaking.
Absolutely,
just to see people doing it. There's 100%. A community that's into it everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it.
Man, I really appreciate you coming out. I won't keep you any longer.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. I appreciate you having me. It's so much fun seeing you, and we should definitely do something, man. Let's crank out a movie or something. If you're doing stand up, let me know. I'll be there to see it, man.
I'm definitely itching to do a short for sure.
Well, let's do
something.
If
you got ideas, let me know. And
absolutely.
I'd love to put a team together and do that again. Cool. I really enjoyed it.
That'd be a blast, man.
Yeah, it's good seeing you, man.
You too, man. Thank you so much for having me. Great to see you.